Hello, people of the world. I have scheduled a stream for Sunday, 7:30, free speech event. Be there. This is not a money making scheme, as some people would like to have it. Who's this guy? Yeah, yeah, John Morgan. Yeah, you're not. You want to come on? Come on. But anyway, um, yeah. So I'm gonna post the. Oh, we got a guest here. Hello, Claire.
Hello, John.
So, Claire, this is the pre main event here of the free speech party on Sunday. Um, I guess my main motivation for this was, well, two parts. One is YouTube is changing the terms of services on June 1st to be even more ambiguous when it comes to terms and services, where they can delete any account that is not commercially viable. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, I was watching the stream with Jen, Church of Entropy, and the probable logical cause, or I don't know. Anyway, you know that stream, right?
Yeah. I,
Okay,
I
okay, good.
actually streamed about it today.
Oh, okay.
Logical,
Yeah,
plausible, probable is his name, aka John Maddox, and you can
John
find him on
Mattis. Okay.
Facebook too.
Yeah, he's also invited as well to this. I posted a link to other people as well. So I want as many people as possible with many differing views. I guess some of the rules maybe I could lay out here is no defamation, libel. So I guess no character assassinations. Uh, I'll allow opinions. Um, even negative inferences on a person, like even negative inferences, I will also accept as well. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it'll be pretty liberal. But yeah, what's your state? What's your stance on free speech as a topic of discussion?
Well, obviously, I think it's necessary for anything to be discussed properly so that problems can be solved and avoided.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just crazy to censor everything because even the censorers need to know what the people think about them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It
you're
is.
actually stopping yourself from knowing stuff that you may need to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it seems like nowadays. It seems like I guess we are biased in our own ways, and we can't necessarily avoid a bias. But as a like in terms of like having a differing view, differing views need to be heard, even if you absolutely maybe despise the person. You still need to hear the other person out in some way. But I view it also in another aspect that you know it could be co-opted, and they could change what is acceptable discourse as well. So there's always a like I guess a consequence to free speech as well. So I wouldn't say like uh, anyway, from my perspective, I'm a free speech absolutist. I think it gets to a point where the other side, uh, it, it it gets to a point where it's a waste of time to even consider the other side when they've had more than an ample amount of opportunity to make their case, and they still want to detract. Well, I guess that's when you have freedom of association as well too. So that works hand in hand too. So I mean, it's just like if you don't want to, hear the other person's argument all the time, and you find it's wasting your time, or you could spend some other time doing more productive things.
Well,
You do have that freedom of association as well.
okay. I think all this is really a problem of people not thinking straight and wasting time, as we've been saying, and before we went live, we were talking about Jen, right? She wastes a lot of time, but she
Mm-hmm.
wants to waste a lot of time because she doesn't care if the time is used productively or not, as long as people's attention are directed towards her and her worthless opinions and her worthless ideas, in my view. Did
Mm-hmm.
you watch the debate on modern day debates?
On what?
She was in this debate called Modern Day Debates with these three other people. She was debating with an atheist, a pagan, and a Christian, and
Mm-hmm.
she was a pantheist. And the
Mm-hmm.
debate that you watched was the after party, the after show stream. Were
Mm-hmm.
you aware of that?
A little bit, yeah. I kind of like checked in and out a little bit, and then I guess I got most of it at the end, like maybe the last half hour or so. I probably watched a good chunk of the last half hour or so when she was arguing, and then she got really snarky with logical,
Logical,
probable
probable,
clauses, and then
possible.
she censored him, and I thought he was
She kicked
making some.
him,
Yeah, I thought he was making some good
asked her if
points,
she was
and I
drunk.
thought Jed was also making some good points too. To be fair, but
Okay, I wasn't following the argument because it was all about physics and
oh
this,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so
I mean,
I did.
I do get like wave theory and mechanical. Like I do understand a little bit of science, so it wasn't like too bad for me. But I'd say like, um, yeah, maybe if somebody who's not interested in science at all, it wouldn't be that interesting. But I am interested in science a little bit, so I did catch like they were making some valid points, but I find that her demeanor was really um, off-putting in that she was censoring him because of his differing viewpoint. Uh, I
Well, she
find
does
that,
that to everybody. I mean,
yeah.
I can't post in the chat, but what was a shame was at the beginning of the stream, or somewhere near the beginning of the end of the beginning, when Brundle and this guy called Lone Man were talking, and it was quite interesting because Brundle was saying America is more like Carthage than Rome, and pointed out that Carthage was destroyed by Rome, and Carthage was a marine empire, which is the same as the Spanish and British and American empire. And then they started talking about the sacrifice of young men and virgins. And it would have got quite interesting, until Jen said, hey, I don't want my stream hijacked by your subjects and your discussions. It's my channel, it's my stream. You have to turn your attention and talk about the things I want to talk about.
Oh,
So
just said she just took her ball and went home pretty much.
no, she basically censored the speech. It said you can't talk about anything except what I want to talk about. And
Mm-hmm.
then so eventually, and then Cade appeared, and he didn't stay long because it was just boring.
Was
And
there any like defined topic at all?
well, no, because it was supposed about, wow, Jen, you're so great. You were the best of all those people in that modern day debates. And I thought, no, that there was actually a woman who was an atheist called Jenna, and she was quite good. Because she was civilized, and she kept asking Jen what she meant. You could tell that Jen was getting annoyed with her, but she was staying polite and professional. So
Mm-hmm.
I think she did best of all. I mean, the pagan was well. I mean, she was obviously pretty, but it's like, oh, I don't feel I need proof for my beliefs. I believe it, and I feel good, and that will do me, and blah blah blah. And then the Christian was this Indian with a really thick Indian accent, and nobody cared what he said anyway, because, well, I mean, nobody cares if you're Christian, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that it's like, what's the point of that debate? It's like, okay, four people are basically saying, my system of belief makes me feel good, and I prefer it to your belief, and that's it. It's like, you just wasted, I don't know, over an hour talking about this. It's like, who
Mhm.
cares about your worthless beliefs? What. And
Mhm.
it's like, it's not even a proper belief in that, at least you can say, well, I'm a communist, I'm a, whatever. It was like, no,
Mhm.
no, I have my own individual beliefs because of my own individual experiences. And actually, this atheist was an ex-Catholic too. So it's like, ex-Catholics in the New World are the walking wounded of failed Christianity,
Mhm.
because it's like there's so many of them. I mean, I didn't know how, why there's so many of them. There are obviously more of them in in America than in the UK, because hardly anyone's a Catholic in
Mhm.
the UK. So
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, something that we could definitely talk about as well too. But I like that's a good thing about like having like an open platform is that you have ideas that are maybe not that great, and then you have some ideas that are more clearly defined and maybe like you could say more robust, and then they clash together. It's basically for the audience to decide. It's basically it has a good thing about free speech. It has like a falsehood can come up against a truthhood, and then they can come together, and that falsehood would be exposed even more, and that person would it's just like universities used to be, well, what I've heard anyway,
where people
where
were allowed to discuss stuff without getting cancelled. Yeah,
yeah, or offended or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, everybody's afraid of being cancelled because, it's like somebody cutting off your phone, I guess, in the olden days when everybody thought it was a great thing to have a phone. And
Hmm.
then, said, if you don't like the stuff of you talk on the phone,
Hmm.
we're going to cancel your phone line.
Hmm.
So,
Well,
I guess
another thing too, another thing is it's good because you also with ideas, you should also be able to back them up with some form of hard evidence or credible information, as opposed to ambiguity and hyperbole, and falsely believing that your opinions are of truth or of objective nature.
thank you for mentioning that, because
Hmm.
I've been trying to, say to people that let's try and do this thing of objectively measuring who won the debate. So I keep using your debate with Connots. Was it about 2 years ago?
Yeah, time flies.
I know.
I
And
know.
I,
I
I,
yeah.
I time stamped it so it's already there. And it was the one I tried to make Jay, tell me because he goes, say, yo, Connops won. I say, why? What can you say why Connops won? And he couldn't. It's like, but I agree with Connops, and Connops said it so well, and that's why Connops won. And I thought, but you have to give a reason. And he couldn't. He literally he didn't understand. I know I went
Hmm.
on and on at him for about 2 months or something, or the whole
Hmm.
of the summer, and he still didn't get it.
Hmm.
So, I'm saying, okay,
Maybe
somebody.
that's why Jay is not a court judge.
Well, yeah,
Hmm.
and and I finally reduced it to these things. In fact, I did it for the debate that Jen and I had, because it just annoyed me so much that everybody said Jen won, and I thought, what did she win? I mean, did anybody even understand her ideas? And I didn't think they had. They just decided that they supported Jen because they hated secular Quranism, and it was as simple as that.
Hmm.
But I didn't think anybody understood, you know, the debate between a personal and impersonal God.
Hmm.
And so basically, what I did was um, made a transcript of what she said, what I said, and then um, tried to find sound arguments in her 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 part of the speech and my part of the speech. And obviously I thought I had made more sound arguments, right? So I'm saying this is how you decide who won an argument. You made a transcript of everything that was said, and then you identify the number of sound arguments being made, and hey presto, you got the winner.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think?
I think that definitely that's probably I think sound arguments is and proving your case in a more definite and I guess the one thing that I have is I like to go off onto different points, right? And I maybe I should just focusing on one point and then elaborating on that. Maybe that's like a habit, some people have that maybe would make their case a little bit ambiguous. So I think the best strategy would be to have like one point and then stick on that one point as much as possible and then elaborate on it. And that in itself would make your case more definite and has a more solid foundation as opposed to trying to build multiple foundations at the same time.
I don't really know. Can you give me an example of what you tend to do that you wish you didn't do?
Well, I tend to want to, like, in terms of like the legal realm, I know, like, especially is this like you want to make sure that you make one claim and then that you can elaborate on it. Um, I would like to kind of focus on that a little bit, and then so I'm still on the same topic as opposed to switching topics. You know what I mean?
Okay, I don't know what argument you're talking about.
Like I'm just saying hypothetically, like, so if you're talking about, like, say, like wave-like theory, and just hypothetically, right? And then you're stating points of wave-like theory, and then you also make another case of let's say something to do with philosophy, right? So they're like two different subjects, right? And that in itself, when you make that crossover into the other subject, that could make your argument more ambiguous.
Ambiguous.
Yes.
Okay. I suppose the best way is that, both philosophically and in terms of physics, they agree. I mean, what you want is like, all these different methodologies agree, they come to the same conclusion. So they mutually reinforce each other. And then you have a stronger argument instead of, well, why are you talking about physics when we're talking about philosophy, which is my gripe with Jen. It's like, well, I thought we were talking politics. The only reason why I was interested in what you were saying was because I thought you were alt-right. I thought you wanted to promote a theocracy. And and I find it that your theocracy is your own beliefs that nobody shares and that you can't explain to us properly. And why? Well, why are you doing this? Is basically my question to Jen, which I've answered the question myself, which is that she basically wants to sound clever, so she claims that she's got a new religion, and people are being stupid if they don't agree with her. And obviously, she will never agree with me about secular Quranism because it's a rival theocracy. And so she's the one not arguing in good faith, and she's basically relying on people to who hate Islam to hate my ideas and support her, even though they don't really get what she's saying anyway. But their hatred of Islam is greater than their doubt about whatever Jen is saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people's motivations are important in trying to work out what they're doing,
Mm.
and I guess a certain amount of psychology is necessary. I mean, honestly, I just thought, the problem is so simple. All I have to do is say what the problem is and what the solution is, and they'll agree with me. And it's like, no, they're in denial. There's so many things that are obviously true that they will just continue to deny because of some twisted psychological reason. Um, so
Well, I guess you could say another like motivation, and just in general itself, not necessarily towards a specific character, but a character trait. I guess I would say is, I guess some people are motivated by spreading ambiguous points in order to accuse their opposition of wrongdoing. But if you really press them, or maybe if you do maybe privately in their private thoughts, they actually have specific clauses that say to that anybody who espouses a specific idea, like let's just say secular Quranism, in this case, is not to be taken seriously and is to be derailed at any means possible. Uh, and because it promotes bigotry, it promotes hate, it promotes suffering, um,
yeah,
and
because, and usually you are allowed to face your accuser, so they accuse you of all these things, and then you can defend yourself. But
yeah,
if people have just basically decided that it doesn't matter what they say, I'm just going to stick to my original position, I will not be moved, then you know that they're debating in bad faith. So it doesn't
mm-hmm,
matter if you actually go through deal with all their concerns, that they'll still hate it because they can, So they're already not submitting to truth, logic, and morality, because they'll lie about your motives. They'll pretend to misunderstand you so they can demonize you. And something that Connox does, it's like, oh, whatever you propose, it'll end horribly because it's Islam and Muslims, and it'll end in being beheaded and wearing bin bags. So that would be his motivation.
mm-hmm.
And of course, there'll be the other motivation of saying, well, liberalism can't be wrong because liberalism was what made us great. And this is the mainstream view. And I would be safer if I stood with the mainstream than show any support for some marginal idea that's struggling to come up.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it is people. It's not that they don't understand, but they don't want to, risk any, their social standing by
Mm-hmm.
appearing to consider a marginal idea that they already know is hated by most people, or most
or
people
or if
in
they
their
espouse a
gang.
marginal idea, they wouldn't do it with their real identity. They would be very inflammatory in making their points of the marginal idea because of their immunity. I guess you could say that's another aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it could be social or it could be psychological. Their
Mm-hmm.
reasons for not agreeing with you, even though perhaps if they were being, truthful and rational and moral, they would agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because they hate Islam and Muslims so much that there's just no way they're going to admit that it might be, better for a Western nation to adopt it. So then, you'll be like Jay. It's like, is Christianity kaput? Yeah, but no. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what he actually said. So he would initially, I remember he actually agreed with my assessment, and then he realized where it would lead. It would lead to the acceptance of secular Quranism. So he had to say no, because because just accepting that Christianity is kaput means that you have to find something that works. and there's
Mhm.
nothing else but Islam. I mean, because it can't be Hinduism, it can't be Buddhism, it can't be Judaism, and you know,
Mhm. I guess another point is, if you know what you're saying, um, like a good test would be if what you're saying, if you're like if you're saying it on Facebook, or if you're saying it on YouTube or whatever platform you're on, if you're not able to defend it in a court of law, you shouldn't be saying it.
yeah.
I think
If
that's a really
you're
good test.
yes, I would agree with that.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, if you're not prepared to say it under your real name, then obviously you're not, you know, committed to it, because a lot of
Hmm.
people say things anonymously that they wouldn't dream of saying in, you know, using their real names.
Hmm.
So status is also um, tied up with whether you're prepared to use your real name or not.
Hmm. Oh,
And
definitely.
and I think, you know, whether we acknowledge the status of the person that we're dealing with, we unconsciously admit it. You know, it's like the people who don't like Jews, you know, but you complain about they did this to us, they did that to us, and but unconsciously they're admitting that they are the victim and therefore lower status than than, you know, the Jew who did all these things to them. So
Hmm.
therefore Jews are higher status. So, you know, that's what I think drives people crazy. That in the end, you know, that by complaining they're admitting themselves to be lower status, and this drives them crazy too.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad thing to diagnose the problem per se. And I'm not
It's
saying that
essential. It's
it's
essential because
essential, right? It's
otherwise, you know,
essential,
you're not dealing with the problem correctly.
right? And then once you know the problem, like it's one thing to know the problem, assess it, and diagnose it, and then offer a solution. It's another thing to get wrapped up in the problem and then start purity spiraling to the point where you're accusing other people of being not pure enough for for being for victimizing themselves, um, of the said problem. So like, you're not mentioning, that uh, the problem of racism too much. So you have it on the left where like you're not mentioning the problem of racism, um, too much. You must be a racist, and then on the right you'd have, oh, you're not mentioning the Jewish problem enough. You must be like a
A
paid
Jew.
Jew, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and this is really the thing when people are um, okay. Purity spiraling is caused when people kind of agree not to discuss things that might upset them. And this is something that I discovered actually um, goes on a lot in the alt right. The British alt right. In fact, I think
You can
the
say the
alt
alt
right.
right and like the far left too, right?
Yeah, it's like, you know, we're not gonna say talk about stuff that will make us fight amongst ourselves. So we'll just agree and not talk about these things.
Hmm.
But
We'll just call them the N
unconscious.
word, and then that's the end of the discussion.
Yeah, and if you should discuss these subjects, then you know you're obviously, you know, people will unconsciously try to assert their status over you. It's like, oh, you said the N word, therefore you're lower status than me. You know, because you put a foot wrong by talking about this subject, you used the wrong word, and I'm not going to forget it, and I'm going to tell people that you said the wrong word. And if I do that successfully, I will have higher status than you. So that is really the basis of purity spiraling.
Hmm.
You know, you discuss the wrong topic. You shouldn't have even asked a question. How dare you? It means you know you're not a true believer, or you know, whatever.
Hmm.
So yeah, we obviously need free speech, and you know, obviously we also need to be able to defend ourselves when we're being accused of all kinds of things.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't even know how to defend themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, and a lot of time is wasted. I mean, like that stupid debate, it's like it should all these debates should be, should X be done or something. It should always be about a course of action that should or shouldn't be done, not whether, so, try to avoid, is something X or not, because I guess that's harder, but sometimes it's necessary. Like, is Christianity coupled? And if it is, what should we do about it? Blah blah blah. There is a chain of logical reasoning that you need to undergo before you get to the solution.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're primed to think, Christianity can never be coupled, liberalism can never be coupled, then if that really is a problem, you'll never be able to solve it, right?
Well, I would say liberalism is very vague and it doesn't really have a doctrine, whereas Christianity has a doctrine. So it's something that you can go towards and you can make discernible judgment upon. Whereas liberalism, there is really no discernible judgment because there's no written document of it. It's ambiguous. It's basically, it changes with the times, basically. Whereas Christianity has a doctrine, and you can read it discernibly, and and I know it's not 100% a divine document, but there's still a lot of wisdom in there that needs to be parsed out in order for one to live a fulfilling life.
Yeah,
But
Christianity only worked when the government was still prepared to support marriage and family values.
right.
As long as the government was prepared to do that, it worked. The moment they gave it up, and I'm afraid they had about 50 years ago, then that the sky came tumbling down.
Mm-hmm.
And but in a way, it's kind of logical in that you should use a better system if you know there is a better system to use. You don't stick with the old thing that has failed. In fact, it failed many centuries ago. It wasn't just in the 70s, with this,
Yeah,
after
you
this.
can go back to like the early church days and the Council of Nicaea and a lot of the, because I don't necessarily like, I know Islam, it's about 100% divine uh, uh, revelation, and the only thing with Islam is the hadiths, and that the hadiths are kind of wrapped up in like nuanced cultural.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it gets kind of confusing for a person in the West, right? When you
Yeah,
get
yeah,
wrapped
and the
up in
thing is that
hadiths.
everybody should be a Quranist first,
Yeah,
because the Hadith is the cultural encrustations of an alien, a different culture.
yeah,
So okay, I'm just saying, if secular Quranism were ever introduced, I just ignore all the Hadith, unless they were helpful and we wanted to to find out
yeah.
what
I
was going
definitely
on.
like.
But
I
we would
would.
have our own hadiths. Every country would have their own hadiths of
Mhm,
interpretation.
mhm.
Because
Yeah,
there are already four schools of Sharia, and they don't even agree with each other. In the established Islamic world, and
mhm.
like what we have to choose between the four schools of Sharia. No, we
Mhm.
we make our own. We interpret those principles in our own way. In each different country that adopts it.
Mhm.
And anyway, nobody can force you to say, "Oh, I've got to be Shafi or Hanbali or whatever." I can't remember the others.
There's
So
like silly like rituals where like one country, like a Pakistani Muslim says you got to eat rice with your hands, and then there's another one that absolutely hasn't even heard of that interpretation of the hadith. So it's just it's really kind of um, yeah, like it's it's kind of confusing sometimes.
Well,
And
it's not even necessary because obviously
yeah,
these different groups are saying, our kind of Islam is better than their kind of Islam, so you have to follow it. And
it's just like the denominations of Christianity.
yeah, exactly. And you're kind of being incorporated into fighting their wars for them, their
Hmm.
ideological wars. And a lot of people new to Islam don't know, and they're the kind of become the cannon fodder of their centuries long doctrinal disputes, which is
Hmm.
stupid. But this was something I discovered recently from this Imam Lukman Ahmed. I don't know if you caught that on my stream, but it's basically this black Ohioan who was basically complaining about being black and Muslim, and I rubbed him up the wrong way when I talked about Muhammad Ali, because we're way beyond that now. What are you talking about? This is you know, and so he was just very very chippy about everything. I said, okay, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why you expect me to know all the trials and tribulations about it being a Black American Muslim. And but okay, so basically he's saying, we've got all these immigrants who are Muslims, and they come to our country and tell us what to do. So that's basically his gripe as a Black American Muslim, and he doesn't like it, and he notices that they're better organized because
Hmm.
they've been Muslim for longer, I think, or they just have better facilities.
Hmm.
So and then he also got annoyed with me because I thought, are you kind of some kind of black separatist, because you seem to be saying you wanted your own space.
The
It
Nation
sounded a
of
bit like,
Islam. Is he from the Nation of Islam?
no, no, and then oh yeah, he got annoyed as well. It's like, yeah, I'm not from Nation of Islam. How dare you? Stop saying the book. It's the same old thing. I'm tired of hearing about Muhammad Ali and Nation of Islam. So I said, yeah, and then he wanted me to unveil myself. I refused, and then he just sort of, said he didn't want to talk to me anymore. And in fact, it's still there. But anyway,
Was it
um,
one of Pelu's friends?
no, it was
Oh,
actually one of Tehran's friends,
oh, okay.
and he actually knows the guy. Um, but anyway, that's a problem. It's like you'll always be treated as not being as Muslim as they are, because even in your own country, because they've been Muslim for centuries already, and you just started becoming Muslim yesterday. So of course they're going to not respect you, and not think you have any traditions of Islam in your country if you're white or Western.
Hmm.
So that was his gripe, and I'm just saying, that will always be a problem until and unless your country actually becomes officially Muslim, which is a kind of, ooh, I don't want, not quite sure how we're going to do that, but that's the only way to solve it. Otherwise, these Muslims who come to your country will say, well, we're more Islamic than you because we've been Muslim for longer. You guys know nothing.
Hmm.
And of course, there's this cultural thing, and I think that this problem affects both white converts and black converts to Islam in the West. It's like, what shall we do? How shall we behave if we sort of start introducing Arabisms in our speech? It'll just piss off everyone, right? It'll
Yeah, I was just walking by the other day, someone talking in Arabic, and it kind of like spooked me a little bit. Just instinctually. It's a very it can be like in a certain dialect, it can be kind of intimidating or really off-putting, I guess you could say. Um, and it wouldn't necessarily. Now, I'm not for one like to sugarcoat ideas to oblivion, but uh, I you can't like you're not going to impress a Westerner with your Arabic skills. Like
It's
that
just
might be odd.
annoying, and it sort
Mm.
of slows down the conversation. It's like blah 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 blah, peace be upon it, blah, peace be upon it. And it's like, get to the fucking point and shut up. So yeah, and it's like blah blah, inshallah. It's like, no, just say it in English, because it just triggers people and annoys them.
Hmm. Yeah,
If
you can
Tehran
do
is
private
available, do
prayers
you
like
want
in
him to join
Arabic.
us?
Like there is like in Arabic, you can do like privately prayer in Arabic, but uh, I'm out of the kind of the like I kind of have maybe a little bit critical on Islam. Maybe not to the same extent I'm critical of the Trinity, but critical in that it seems to be legalistic in a way, in that how it does prayers, and that it's just like it's about focus about the language and how many recitations you can do, and how many
The raka and all that.
the raka, yeah, how much raka you can do. Whereas in
Well, I mean, if you
Christianity,
find
it's
it hard
different.
to do, I mean, can't you just sort of in your mind, I don't know, mentally do your prostrations and acknowledge God, and
Well,
just
that's kind of the Christian concept, right? Of like repentance
uh,
and and changing and repenting of your sins and changing your thought patterns, right? Because I guess in a way you are building a habit of going to prayer 5 times a day, and maybe that might, you know, rub some people the wrong way. But I don't see how that's like incumbent upon them to, you know, like act holy, right? Because I mean, there's Christians that go to church every Sunday. That doesn't mean they actually live by the word of God, right? And you can say the same thing about Muslims. It's because they pray 5 times a day. Yeah, there's a better chance that they're living by the word of God and the Abrahamic prophets, but uh, they still, it's still not necessarily repentance, right? And like like when you preach, you have to preach with it has to be like a plea. Like I was hearing a Christian pastors, you have to plea when you're preaching. Like you has to be a second nature to you. You just can't just have like what most pastors do is they they read passages, and then they give you talking points to have over the dinner table. That's not the point of uh, preaching, right? And it's supposed to change the way that you live your life on a individual level. It's supposed to like pierce your mind, your heart, soul, and basically, and that's the purpose of fasting as well too. Is basically, you're not going to live here forever. Most people nowadays think they're going to live here forever, subconsciously or consciously. Um, but fasting, it gives you kind of like you starve yourself to a point where you're like, okay, like uh like, am I gonna do things that are of creature comfort, or am I gonna do things that I really want to do and really want to please God, right? And it's just like, well, these are creature comforts are just temporary, right? But God, it's eternal, right? So you'd be more inclined to do more godly things when you're
I
fasting.
think people are just thinking of, oh, how can I get brownie points for heaven? I think that's it. They think, maybe fasting will help them, and giving
Well,
charity or
fasting
whatever.
does help. Like fasting does help. I don't know about like the destination heaven per se, but I would say fasting does help you in that it kind of, I wouldn't say disconnects you, but it gives you a different perspective
Well, it
on
makes you think of God, I suppose, every time you're feeling hungry and want to eat, and you think, "I'm doing
and you
this for
reject it,
God."
right? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, taqwa, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, people are doing it for all kinds of reasons, personal reasons, because they want to be, I don't know, accountable to God and in good standing, that sort of thing. And but okay, but I'm just saying, that for
Well,
people
I
who
mean,
convert.
that's the foundation of basically our law system and our political system, right? If you don't have that foundation of keeping the faith, or acting in good faith, you can have all the checks and balances in the world, uh, but at the end of the day, if you don't have any, like, I guess, moral conscience, if you maybe feel you'll take a bribe, like, our politicians, they'll take a bribe, to get more power or to advance their career at the expense of a whole population, or at the expense of their moral conscience. It's like, the term "sell your soul to the devil." I mean, there's some truth to that, right? And it gets to a point where it will eventually catch up to you, right? Even in this life, maybe not. Yeah, even in this life.
Okay, so the politician, the professional
Sorry.
politician, is doing it
Sorry.
to feather his own nest, right? He's not doing it for public service. He's usually an atheist or a nihilist. The whole idea is to be seen to be a successful politician. So it depends on what this person thinks he's doing, right? You know, and that's why when you consider why these people won't help you, it's because they think it would be stupid to do something that will cause them to be punished. And that is all they
Right.
care about, though. What they want to show is that they have higher status or they haven't lost status, and,
Right.
and to suffer punishment for following a principle would be stupid as far as they're concerned. But presumably for somebody who does believe in God and following his laws, his purpose would be to follow God's laws, to obey God's laws. So the motivations are different,
Right.
and you have to understand, why a person is doing what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't, then you'll just be forever wondering, why they don't understand you. It is, because if they don't, they have a different motive to you in how they lead your life. And therefore, for a Muslim or anyone who wants to change the political system for a more socially conservative society, we have to understand the mechanisms of how to get there. And it is really about the idea of the ultimate supreme authority from whom the law, morality, religion, and the laws emanate, and and then obviously you would, if you did believe in this, then you would have to obey God. And the only way to obey God is to obey His laws, and that's how this process creates a society that is law abiding, until eventually you just want to obey the law even though nobody catches you breaking it, because you would feel bad otherwise.
It's just like the Pharisees. They will break the law of accusing you of doing something illegal, right? Like you basically kind of described the Pharisees in some way or fashion. Whatever the social whim at the time, anything that offends them, right? They will break God's laws in order to justify throwing you in jail, or getting you a ticket, or punishing you in some way where it give you lower status in their eyes, right? And
But the Pharisees were in conflict with the Sadducees, right? So are you saying the Pharisees are always the bad guys, or I mean, in
well,
a
I
way,
would
the
say the
Pharisees are still
Pharisees
with us?
the Pharisees definitely um, explain um, how basically, you know they when you preach, like, I'm just thinking of I'm trying to think of what verse it was. I think it was like John, or yeah, I think it was in John, where he was preaching the word of God, and it really shook the Pharisees, like, at their core, and so they're really offended by that, and so they wanted to make up a way where they could make this illegal and throw him in jail,
Oh,
and
okay,
and
you,
and
you, you,
John. and I know John. He was so confident in his word that he wanted to see Caesar and make the case before Caesar. I know that that's the story. He could have just let it go, but he was so confident in his word. Like you have to have somebody that's very confident in their word, like John, and and I will. That's why I say, if you're going to say something, make sure that you could say it in the court of law, right? Don't just say something very frivolous per se.
Okay,
But
but you have said that before. I don't know why you keep going back to the Gospels when you're supposed to be Muslim.
because I don't know what's the am I breaking a law of some sorts?
No, because you're, I guess, you're hating on the Pharisees because you hate Jews, right? That's what this is all
I
about.
didn't say that. That's an implication.
Well, I
That's
know, but I mean, what? But there's a story of Muhammad. You're supposed to be a Muslim. Why don't you talk about the trials and tribulations of Muhammad instead of just always going back to the gospel?
well.
Because I mean, the
Why
Pharisees
can't I talk
are
about the Bible stories?
well, because at some level, I expect you to have rejected it because
Oh,
you're supposed to be a Muslim, but you're going back to it, and I think
well, Muslims
this
read the
is what
Bible too.
this is what's
Muslims
giving
read
you
the
your
Bible too.
yeah, but
Yeah, yeah. So
they
this is probably where we fundamentally disagree. In that I do see wisdom in the Bible, and I do read it with discernment. Where you just absolutely reject it and want to burn Bibles,
I don't
which
know.
is
I
absolutely
don't
absurd.
want to burn Bibles,
Um, yeah.
but you're
Well,
trying
you're
to.
Muslim now. You can't read the Bible anymore.
No,
So okay.
of course you can, but I'm just saying it's not teaching you anything useful except to hate the Jews, right? Because
I didn't say hate the Jews. It's a story.
yeah.
It's like a
Well, why do you
metaphor that
keep going back to
you're
it
supposed to
though?
gain wisdom out of, right?
No, because the whole basis of Christianity is to hate the Jews, right? The Jews killed Christ. The Pharisees hated Christ, and again, it's just a stupid going back to it. And actually, Islam says Jesus wasn't crucified, and I know you just want to go back to what's familiar to you, but I just don't see the purpose of it. It's getting you into trouble, but you want to keep the hatred of Jews going. I don't know why. Why is it because of habit? Is it just force of habit?
It's just because I don't know. I view it as there's wisdom in there and how to deal with
But
people and how to
how
have
is it
mercy on them
useful? I mean,
and how to
you've already
discern
become
people's
Muslim,
behavior.
so I don't understand. It's just this contradiction that I can't explain in you. You've converted to Islam, you made a big deal of it, and you're still reading the New Testament. So you don't like the Quran? What's your problem with it?
I feel there's a lot of wisdom in the Bible that you know that is still very useful today.
Okay,
And it
but
talks about
you
like worshiping the beast and the mark of the
why?
beast
Why? I
and
just don't get it.
what
This the Pharisees are mean to Jesus, we should hate them. The rabbis has descended from the Pharisees, let's hate on the Jews. I mean, how is that going to help you?
uh, it helps me discern. Well, I mean, it's weird because the Christians are getting persecuted more than the Muslims, and I don't know like why. I think maybe this is why Christianity is persecuted is because it really focuses on a doctrine of free will, as Islam it focus on a doctrine of well, not necessarily free will, but like obedience to
The
God.
Quran believes in free will. What are you
Mm-hmm.
on about? I mean, you obviously the whole.
It's more nuanced. It's more nuanced. It's more descriptive, right?
I don't know what you mean.
I don't know why that. Reading the Bible is somehow like a crime. I don't get it.
Because it's like it doesn't make sense. You've converted to Islam. You're just reading the crap of the New Testament
Islam
and going
Islam is
Pharisees and
recognizing the prophets
focusing on how they
of all
Jesus.
the Abrahamic prophets, and there's Abrahamic prophets in the Bible.
But he
I
was
don't
such
see
a
the
loser.
contradiction in
He
that.
was such a loser, and you're still, yeah,
See
you are. He's just
what?
a fucking loser, and you just
Okay,
want to weep over this
okay,
crucified Christ.
okay. There we go. Okay, I think we're gonna end it here. We got to swearing and calling names, and we don't accept that. But I think this is great, great hype. But yeah, if you're going to start swearing and calling people names, I will remove you. So uh, thank you everybody. Thank you Claire for coming, and we'll see you all tomorrow.